Where in the world is Armando Abrego Garcia? Yes, that's the question. And what is the Trump administration doing, if anything, to return him by way of diplomatic means? The Trump administration lies to the American people from the White House, from the press secretary's mouth, from those around him that will never see Abrego Garcia, despite the Supreme Court having ordered him, compelled him 9-0 to facilitate his return. Yet in secret filings at the court that's handling this matter, Judge Zinnes, filings that the Trump administration doesn't want you and me to see. They're singing a different tune. They're whistling a different tune. And we've caught it now by piecing together some filings we can read with some filings we can't read. And I give you the full report with the analysis that you need on Popok Live, a podcast I do on Tuesday nights on the Midas Touch Network. Here's a clip. Let me start there, and then we'll get into the rest. So to remind everybody, or to bring everybody up to speed, Armando Abrego Garcia, guy living in Maryland, picked up by immigration, had an order in his back pocket from an immigration judge that said, if you ever deport this guy, you can't deport him to El Salvador because they'll kill him. Went through an appeal process, and he's got his get-out-of-jail-free card. They pick him up in front of his kid, 5-year-old U.S. citizen daughter or son. He says to ICE, I've got this piece of paper. They say it's revoked. Talk about judge, jury, and executioner on the streets. And they load him in to a van, whisk him off to 2 detention centers before his wife even knows where he is. She's a U.S. citizen, too. And now he's got a head shaved and he's being shackled, and she sees him in a picture being loaded into CCOT, the now infamous El Salvadoran maximum security prison. She sees him. And then we start the process. Every judge that's looked at the issue, from Judge Zinnes in Maryland to the 2 different panels of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, and one led by Judge Wilkinson, a major Republican icon, and 9-0 at the United States Supreme Court. So let's do the math. 9-0 plus 6-0 is 15-0 plus Judge Zinnes, 16-0. 16 different judges, or 16 events have all said Judge Zinnes is right. Due process rights of Abrego Garcia violated. He was illegally, their term, not mine, deported and removed to El Salvador. And Judge Zinnes was right, as the Supreme Court said 9-0, that Donald Trump and his administration must facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia and his release from an El Salvadoran prison. And ever since then, Donald Trump has done everything to contort himself to avoid doing exactly that. Although we have the new reporting that while publicly they're mocking and trolling the American people and the judiciary, at their own risk, by the way, because they need the Supreme Court and all those votes for other major issues, like Thursday's oral argument on birthright citizenship I'll talk about. But you see all the mocking. Senator Van Hollen from Maryland goes to CCOT. They post a New York Times article, which Stephen Miller, I'm sure, with a red pen, said, we've edited it for you. You'll never see this illegal guy ever again. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, asked if we'll ever see Abrego Garcia again, if there's any diplomatic efforts being used as ordered by the Supreme Court. I'll never tell you, and I'll never tell a federal judge. You know, Kristi Noem, you'll never see Abrego Garcia ever come back to the United States. Donald Trump in 2 separate interviews, actually 3 separate interviews. Time magazine, first 100 days. Terry Moran, first 100 days. Kristen Welker, first 100 days. And he flip-flopped all along the way. For the first interview with Time magazine, he said, no one's ever asked me. They said, why don't you pick up the phone and call the dictator of El Salvador as part of facilitating his release? Nobody's ever asked me to do that. That was such a lie. What do you mean? No one but you, the interviewer, has ever asked me to do that. If somebody asked me, I'd have to think about it. I have very brilliant lawyers. Okay? So that went over not well, especially with courts. Because every time Donald Trump makes a confession in a speech like that or an interview, it shows up in courtrooms. Like Judge Boasberg, who's presiding over another aspect of this case, says, I saw the president. He said he could pick up the phone and bring him back. He just doesn't want to. Was he telling the truth or was he lying? See, federal judges are human beings, and they read social media, and they read YouTube, and they watch YouTube. They also read YouTube, and they watch the Midas Touch Network. We know that for a fact in some cases. So Donald, that was the first position. Second position with Terry Moran. Terry Moran says to Trump in an interview, he's in the Oval Office. I love Terry because it was very dramatic, and I'm a trial lawyer, and I like that kind of drama. He said, "You got a phone? You got a phone right there. You have a phone, Mr. President. Bukele has a phone. Pick up the phone. You call Bukele." "No, I could, Terry. I certainly could do that if he was as nice a person as you say he is. But he's got MS-13 tattooed on his fingers." He doesn't. But he has MS-13 tattooed on his fingers. That's a fake meme. That's a deep fake that you recycle. Well, nevertheless, I could do it, but I don't want to. And I have lawyers. They haven't told me to do it. And then we fast forward to Kristen Welker in the interview a couple days ago, and he says, "Yeah, I could do it. I could make the phone call." Yeah. So all these judges are watching this. And now the lawyers for Abrego Garcia are filing with the court, with Judge Zinnes, a piece of paper that calls out all the lies. And they say in their filing, "We got a problem, Judge." In public, they say they'll never bring back Abrego Garcia. And they troll and they laugh about it. Marco Rubio, who's filing all these affidavits and declarations in court, he says he's never going to bring him back. And yet, in court filings, in secret, in sealed cover of the night, they tell you what we only can presume, because we haven't seen it, that they're working on diplomatic channels to bring him back. But how can we trust them? And how can we believe them? And you need to administer justice in this courtroom. Strip them away of all their privilege assertions. Don't let them hide the ball. 14 different media organizations have all tried to intervene in the case to rip off all of this black tape off of everything that's been filed, especially over diplomatic channels. And then just today, Trump, in one line on page 2 of a 2-page filing, says, "Well, if you shouldn't take the privilege away because it would really interfere with diplomatic activities that we're taking." How coy of you. Diplomatic activities? Well, maybe you should do what the Supreme Court told you to do, and what told the judge to do is that she get to the bottom and get reports about what you are doing to bring back Abrego Garcia. We do not trust you. We do not trust you with implementing and executing on immigration and deportation policy. You are untrustworthy. That's effectively their filing. So Judge Zinnes is going to have to make a decision. And the backdrop of the whole Zinnes thing is she's trying to figure out, I don't think it's if anymore, it's when she's going to find the Trump administration in contempt. That's what a lot of this is about. Are they complying? And I know she's getting the sinking suspicion that they are not, and she's getting impatient with that. And then we move. She could be the second judge after Boasberg to find this administration in criminal contempt about, or a probable cause for criminal contempt about not complying with a court order. And she's pretty powerful right now. She got defended by 9-0 by the U.S. Supreme Court. She is completely in the driver's seat here, and I'm sure that's driving Donald Trump mad. Welcome back. Popok Live. It's me without other anchors, just me. It's sort of like Jimmy Kimmel, but without Jimmy Kimmel. It's an hour long. It's freewheeling. I'm unplugged, occasionally unhinged, but I bring you the type of commentary, hopefully with a bit of humor, that you've come to expect from me, Michael Popok. Midas Touch, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, of course, we bring you over clips here on Legal AF, your one-stop shop for all things law and politics. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.